Morning news on Fox 14. Today, Walgreens says customers who signed up for COVID testing may have had their personal info exposed.
As the sun tries to begin to dry out from overnight thunderstorm activity, we're not quite done as of yet. We're going to sweep down south for the Skywatch storm tracker.
Also, are you getting enough sleep? We've got some tips to help you fight insomnia. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. A major U.S. pharmacy says customers who registered for COVID-19 tests may have had their data exposed. Reports say Walgreens exposed the information of its customers on its website through its test registration system. Experts say a link to the confirmed test reservation gives access to private information with no login required. This includes access to birthdays, phone numbers, addresses, and emails. Insomnia is on the rise in every age group as people stress about the pandemic and everything it's changed in the last year and a half. KOAM's Zach Dodge has details and some things you could try to get more and better sleep.
Sleep is something that we obviously all need, but several people are getting less of it.
As a physician, as a human in this pandemic, it has impacted my sleep.
Generally speaking, 15 to 30% of the population will have trouble sleeping.
During the pandemic, though, that number has increased to 40%, according to the National Institutes of Health, and the reason has been dubbed COVID-somnia.
Stress and sleep do not mix. Most of our stressors in our world are short-term. Unfortunately, the pandemic has been a long-term stress.
Psychiatrist Charles Graves at Access Family Care says that insomnia can impact physical and cognitive performance, like concentration, problem solving, and rational thinking.
Obviously, that impacts our school-age children at school, but also our adults who have to look after those children.
The misery factor goes up anytime you can't sleep.
Psychologist Charles Doyle says that can be especially detrimental to people who are already dealing with a mental illness like anxiety or depression.
It becomes a serious thing for them to deal with, and it decreases their daily function, increases their symptoms overall.
So what can you do to catch some more sleep? Here are some tips that all 3 experts recommend, with some of the bigger ones being create a sleep schedule, turn off the screens, and try not to worry about the things that you cannot change. If that doesn't help, it may be time to seek out professional help.
If it goes for a week or more where people are having difficulties initiating and maintaining sleep, it's appropriate to speak with your physician at that period of time.
When your sleep is off, it's often a red flag that says that something else is off, that it needs to be attended to as well.
In Joplin, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Well, if you have a mental illness like anxiety and depression and endure the cycle of sleeplessness so long that it sends you into a crisis, the Ozark Center has a crisis intervention line. That phone number to call, 417-347-7720. Again, that phone number, 417-347-7720. 4 state organizations feel firsthand the increase in our nation's poverty level over the past 10 years. The Census Bureau announces new income and poverty data for the U.S., showing the poverty level increased 1% nationally. While localized data was not immediately available, the current poverty level in Southwest Missouri is already obvious to organizations who help those in need. And officials with the Economic Security say they've seen a 26% increase in clients since 2019, partly due to the pandemic. Crosslines Ministry says it's seen peaks and valleys, but is beginning to see a steady increase in those seeking assistance.
The stimulus relieved the immediate crisis, which is what we do, but we're starting to see things trend back upward. Obviously, most people have used that stimulus up by this point and are beginning to have needs once again. So we're starting to see an uptick, and we expect that to increase significantly as we roll into the holiday season.
Well, coming up in our next half hour, we'll hear more from Crosslines and the Economic Security Corporation on local trends they've seen. Missouri Southern receives a grant to learn more about food insecurity with students. The Fosbeck Foundation grant gives the university $25,000 to fund research into food insecurity within Missouri college students. It'll also look at their access to and knowledge of the SNAP program.
A better understanding of SNAP knowledge, SNAP awareness, and food insecurity in this population, so that we can then determine what type of interventions, what types of planning and programming need to be done across the state to help these students get enrolled in the SNAP program.
Cullers, who heads up the Lyon Co-op, will be directing the research. If you'd like to donate to the co-op, you can check out the link to this story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. America's oldest known World War II veteran had a big birthday bash. Lawrence Brooks turned 112 years old on Sunday. To celebrate, the National World War II Museum arranged a birthday celebration for the New Orleans native. Brooks and his family stayed on their front porch while the museum staff delivered a cake and cards. There was also a Jeep parade and performances by local musicians. City of New Orleans also issued an official proclamation recognizing Brooks' birthday. How cool.
12 years old. Yeah. My goodness.
Keep on trekking. He's got the best music there in New Orleans too. So.
And Nicholas didn't get in the way. Because when you said it, I didn't realize he was in New Orleans. That's the first thing I thought about. And looks like everybody had a great time. That's tremendous. Wowzers. Unreal.
I didn't know they had a World War II museum down there, so there you go.
They
Something
just put it
else to
wherever he is. He is the
museum. Yeah.
The stories that he has, yeah, the wealth of knowledge that he is the museum.
That gives new meaning to living history. Yes.
Skywatch storm tracker with the late night / early morning thunderstorm activity really just turned into showers now. We've lost our thunder and lightning, so we'll call that a win. Still seeing some very heavy rain though here in Delaware County in between Grove and Jay. As this thing moves to the east, it then turns into just more rain showers for McDonald County and Berry County. Berry County used to be entirely green, from state line all the way all the way up to the county delineation right there. It really backed off in Berry County. It is also backed off in Lamar through Barton County. Now a little bit of this dropping down into Jasper there along I-49. But certainly much lighter than what we had earlier when it came out of Vernon County. Still got this one hanging over Fredonia. That's about as isolated can be. And so it's not going to be able to blow up nor join anything else. As everything moves off to the east here, majority of us are done with the rain. I figured about 7:30 we'll be done. So that's all we've got hanging on right now. Our temperatures are not going to have much of a quick warm-up, though. That's because of that heavy cloud cover we saw on the Skywatch storm tracker. So we're going to linger between 63 and 67 for a good amount of the morning here. By the time we get to about 10, 11 o'clock, that's when we'll be talking about mid-70s. But even during our peak heating hours, certainly not going to be too bad, only mid-80s. Now, reason being is, number one, that cold front that came along with the thunderstorms from last night going to hang over us for a day, but also too, it's going to take a while for that cloud cover to break. That's really not going to happen until late afternoon and early evening. Now, after this bout of rain, we're going to be dry. Number one, we're going to be dry. Number two, we're going to be warm. So after a day of 85 today, we're going to roll 87 tomorrow and then 90s all the way into next week.
Next, the debate over COVID booster shots. Why the Biden administration and outside medical experts are making a case for a third shot. And we meet the young woman who's set to be the first pediatric cancer survivor in space. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. The Jasper County Health Department reports 6 more COVID-19 deaths. Patients were 3 men in their 30s, 40s, and 60s, and 3 women in their 50s, 60s, and 80s. The number of total COVID-19 deaths in the county now stands at 213. While hospitals in parts of the country struggle to keep up with the number of COVID-19 patients, the government is evaluating data to determine if Americans should get a booster shot. In other countries are already making the move for parts of their population. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
Emergency departments in hard-hit areas are overwhelmed with COVID patients.
We lost 5 patients yesterday.
Teresa King is the ICU nurse supervisor at Cape Coral Hospital in Florida.
There's no time to wait. There's people waiting for the beds before it even happens.
In Alabama, where only about 40% are fully vaccinated, ICU beds have reached capacity.
We got patients on ventilators in hallways.
More than 300 additional Kentucky National Guard members have been sent to serve in logistical roles at hospitals across that state, trying to relieve some of the burden. While some states struggle to get even a first dose in people's arms, Friday, an FDA advisory committee will hold a meeting to discuss Pfizer's application for a booster shot. This comes as two outgoing FDA officials questioned the need for a third shot, telling The Lancet widespread boosting should be undertaken only if there is clear evidence that it is appropriate. It's a position that puts them at odds with the FDA, top Biden administration health officials, and outside medical experts.
I think it's inappropriate for current FDA officials to write an op-ed based on their ideas.
CBS medical contributor Dr. David Agus says new data coming out of Israel makes a convincing case. The country approved a booster shot for 60 and older in late July.
I've talked to health officials there, and it's clear that immunity goes down on a monthly basis, and giving a booster shot raises immunity 4 to 10-fold.
The UK announced starting next week it will offer booster shots for people over 50 and the vulnerable. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Israel recently expanded its booster program to include anyone over 12. In other health news, a new study in the British Journal of Ophthalmology links certain eye conditions with an increased risk of dementia. Researchers followed more than 12,000 adults for as long as 15 years. They found a 26% higher risk of dementia in those with age-related macular degeneration, 11% higher risk with cataracts, and 61% higher risk with diabetes-related eye disease.
We got a little calm after the storm going on here at Television City. Check this side out. How pretty is that right there? That is hard to beat. Now, that being said, the rain is not done on this Wednesday morning. We're still rolling this down to the south through Delaware County. Then it makes its way right across the Missouri-Arkansas state lines, turning more into showers, though, as it pushes to the east. And we're seeing it back off to the north. Still got a little bit lingering just in between Jasper and Lamar on the east side of I-49. That one out by Fredonia, though, looks like it's a thing of the past. So everybody gets a chance to calm down. There we are, over 7th and Rangeline. More gorgeous colors. Still waiting on the old intersection to dry off from what we had overnight. Joplin Regional Airport picking up about an inch of rain. Our numbers out of Chanute, a little bit less than that. Vernon County was the one that got pounded last night, as much as 3 inches of rain as you push off to the eastern part of Vernon County. Temperatures beginning to inch up. Still ranging 63 to 67, not a whole lot of difference from last time we checked. And as far as what we've got down south, Nicholas now a tropical depression, no longer a tropical storm, tropical depression, but still expecting an additional 10 inches of rain as it pushes into eastern Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Our temperatures will be 85, be done with this rain here in, say, the next 20, 25 minutes, and then get ready for the heat over the weekend. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Before the rain arrived, the Joplin Eagles were at home in a COC matchup against Carthage. Eagles aiming for their first conference win after falling to Webb City and Branson in the first 2 league games. Carthage coming in with a 1-1 record, 8-10 overall. Pitchers duel early. Jillian McDaniel, she's on the mound for Joplin. Pair of strikeouts in the first inning for McDaniel. Counter that with Jensen Elder on the mound for Carthage. Boom. Swinging in the second. Looking in the third. Joplin did have its first chance to strike in the third. Jaden Pankow to right. Ball gets away and into the corner. Pankow in there for a triple. But Elder out of the inning. Game still scoreless, 4th inning, big one for the Tigers. Mary Grace Richmond has the bases loaded. Line drive into left field, that plates 2. 7 runs for Carthage in the 4th. Elder with the shutout. Tigers beat Joplin. Final score, 8-0. Girard Trojans, football-wise, 2-0 to start the season. And on Friday, Girard has easily its biggest game of the season so far, hosting the Columbus Titans. An important game for both teams and a budding rivalry. This heads into their 3rd meeting in the last year. Here's KOAM Sports Director Jacob Leonard.
The last time Girard and Columbus were on the field together, the Trojans knocked the undefeated Titans out of the playoffs in the first round.
Going into it, I think, I'm certainly we're circled on a calendar somewhere thinking that, knocked them off last year in the playoffs, and I'm sure they're eager to play us. But at the same time, our guys, we got to understand that game has no bearing on what this year is, and we got to go take care of business.
Girard is on a roll to start the season, blowing out both Colgan and Baxter Springs in their first 2 games.
We've gotten a chance to get a lot of people in. We took the opportunity to look at last week as, hey, how do we get better from week 1 to week 2? And there's some things that we did, and there's some things that we still need to get improved, and we're excited to get back to work and get that fixed this week.
Girard's defense has been impressive, allowing just 7 total points through 2 games.
Technique's a big thing for us. We're a little bit smaller up front, so it's a big thing for us right now.
We've got a good group there. We kept a lot of the same stuff that we had a year ago, so we're familiar with it. We've got some athletes that can fly around a little bit, but we've had turnovers. Guys have been doing a pretty good job of getting the ball and tackling. Guys just, kind of being unselfish in what they do, make the plays they're supposed to make, and let their teammates make the plays that they're supposed to make.
While Girard knows they can get the job done on Friday, they know it's an important game for Columbus, and the Titans will be ready to play.
They're a good team. They've got a lot of guys back from a year ago that had a nice team. They do some things very, very sound. They know their identity on both sides of the ball. I think like us, they kind of know what they're doing. Defensively, they know what their responsibilities are, and they go play hard and play fast, and it's going to be a challenge for us.
Important to point out, Columbus did beat Girard in the regular season last year before the Trojans returned the favor in the playoffs. Columbus comes in 1-1 this year through the first 2 games. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor today's 4-state hero. This morning, we salute Billy Hosier. Pittsburgh, Kansas native, was a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army. He served from 1942 until 1945, a veteran of World War II. We are proud to salute Billy Hosier, our 4-state hero. Well, this evening, SpaceX will attempt to launch Inspiration 4. It's the first all-civilian crewed mission to travel in space and includes a remarkable young woman who will make history herself on the launch pad. Nora O'Donnell introduces us to one of the astronauts who's on a mission to fight cancer.
29-year-old Haley Arsenault has the right stuff when it comes to beating the odds. She'll be the youngest American, first with a prosthesis, and first pediatric cancer survivor in space.
How did surviving cancer prepare you for this mission?
Surviving cancer made me tough, and I think it taught me a lot about going out of my comfort zone.
She's one of 4 soon-to-be astronauts on the flight, a mission to raise awareness and money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
My disease is called osteosarcoma.
That's where Haley spent a year in treatment when she was 10, and where she now works as a physician assistant. When the hospital was offered a seat on board, there was one person they had in mind.
Really, until our mission, you've had to be physically perfect to go to space.
Her call sign is Nova.
The secret meaning behind it is no ordinary vixen astronaut.
That sounds sassy.
They gave me a sassy name because I'm a sassy astronaut.
When she told us her favorite part of training was experiencing zero gravity, we convinced her to do it again on the same zero-G plane she and her crew trained on that simulates weightlessness in space. As Haley told me beforehand, it's not as easy as it looks.
You're going towards a wall. Your nature is to propel yourself off. But in zero gravity, all you have to do is just use a little finger, because the harder you push, the harder you're propelled to the other side. But it's so fun.
Superman! What's next for this superwoman, the real thing, orbiting Earth for 3 days?
The history of space has always been about the journey, the dream, doing the impossible.
And the journey has been so much fun. I think going to space will almost be the cherry on top of the most incredible year I've ever had.
Nora O'Donnell, CBS News.
Love her energy. Well, Inspiration 4 is set to launch at 7:02 p.m. this evening. Well, another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, local organizations respond to the rise in poverty in the 4-state area. And an army of insect invaders may be waging a war on your lawn. We'll explain. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
Huge 4 states most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:29. Let's take a look at today's top stories. A Joplin man who owns a Pittsburgh business is indicted by a federal grand jury on 5 counts of false statement and a tax return. Kenneth Model owns Model Construction in Pittsburgh. Prosecutors say Model underreported the company's gross income from 2015 to 2019 by more than $1 million. 4 state organizations that serve folks in need feel firsthand the increase in our nation's poverty level over the past 10 years. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with 2 of those organizations about what they are seeing in our region.
On Tuesday, the Census Bureau released its Income and Poverty Report, which showed a 1% increase in poverty nationally. New local numbers weren't immediately available, but as of 2019, the city of Joplin had a nearly 19% poverty rate, while the national average is at 10% and the state average is at 12%. The number of people living in poverty is placing an increased demand on local service providers as well.
The stimulus relieved the immediate crisis, which is what we do, but we're starting to see things trend back upward.
For Crosslines, Executive Director Rodney Rambo says they're grateful for the assistance they get from the community to help meet those increased needs.
We were started through the generosity of the community, through the local churches, and we continue to depend on that today. So fortunately, we live in a place where our community tends to respond to need very well.
Rambo says he's concerned the poverty percentage in Joplin could go up.
We do expect that number to continue to increase. Joplin, we tend to have a higher poverty level than the surrounding region.
Over at the Economic Security Corporation, they've seen a 26% increase in customers needing assistance since 2019.
So it definitely could go up. I think if it does, more customers will be seeking assistance. My hope is that some of the programming that we do will help people get out of poverty or get into a better situation.
Community Development Director Tammy Walker says part of that increase is due to the pandemic, but another side effect of the pandemic has been an increase to funding to organizations like Economic Security to provide services.
And we were able to look at the needs in the community and create programs that we haven't done before. For example, we were offering water bill assistance, and that's taken off.
In Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
For those looking for help, we've put links to Economic Security and to Crosslines in the story on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. A pest is causing damage to lawns across the 4 states. Officials say armyworms are spreading across the area, rapidly eating large amounts of grass. Armyworms are actually caterpillars that reproduce in large quantities and spread over a field like an army. They feed primarily on Bermuda grass, ryegrass, fescue, bluegrass, and some crops.
The moths get blown from the south. The moths lay eggs lots of times on the side of your house, shop, fence, and the leaves of the trees. And when the eggs hatch, the worms fall and start munching on the grass. And then you start to see the grass declining and being destroyed.
Experts say one of the most effective ways to prevent their spread is to just be aware and take action if you notice any problems.
Take a yard about like that.
Yeah.
When they get through here. Well, it seems like about every 3-4 years we're getting an infestation of them.
I'm just glad I haven't seen those around.
You haven't? Your yard been all right?
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, you'll know. You'll notice how it spreads fast.
Big dead spots.
Live look outside of 7th Television City. Absolutely gorgeous. We'll get to 7th and Rangeline here in a bit, but you'll notice that those clouds, they're not going to move anytime quick. We still have some lingering rain. We're not quite done as of yet. Nice thing is, Delaware County especially, we've been able to get rid of the very hard rain that we had for most of the morning. It's now moved south of Grove and just about through Jay right now. Even McDonald County's about done. Looks like northwest Arkansas, Benton County is what's going to end up with the rest of it, and Berry County is done. Also, too, up in Barton County by Lamar, the little pop-up one that we had, it's done. And then southeast Kansas, dry, cloudy, but dry. There we are over 7th and Rangeline. Still is a pretty shot as the sun just about above that tallest tree that we got in our camera line. 65 degrees is where we stand. Have not seen much of a bump. Nobody up to the 70-degree mark as of yet. Let's run down south, check out Nicholas, now post-tropical. It's right on the Texas-Louisiana state line. And now it's going to take a due north turn, but that still means an additional 10 inches of rain throughout portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. It's going to be a state spreader. As far as our weather trend goes, clouds keep us from getting too hot. Highs of only 85 today, but once we're done with the rain here, and like I said, next half hour, we are done and done. We're going to be hot. We're going to be hot and humid headed into the weekend. Here come the 90s. Be back with more KOAM Morning News and a Wildcat Wednesday right after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. It is a Wildcat Wednesday, and we are fortunate enough to be joined by Tara Solomon-Smith of the Wildcat Extension District, Kansas State Research and Extension. Tara, thank you so much for joining us because you have an interesting topic and activity that you're going to show us this morning, but it comes down to the topic of resiliency. Now, how would you define resiliency, and what's kind of your elevator speech when you talk about the importance of it?
Sure. So resiliency is the ability to bounce back from a difficult situation. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't feel like I bounce back as good as others. For example, for some students, a C on a test may not be any big deal, but it might be life-altering for another. So that's an example of resiliency. And it is important so that we can be our best selves and be able to be the best that we can be for our families and coworkers and those that are around us.
Well, another thing too is coming off of what we've had, I was going to say the past calendar year, but seemingly it's been about 2.5 years that we've all been trying to bounce back from one thing or another. How important is it to reinforce or maybe educate people about resiliency, especially with what we've been through, whether it be pandemic, whether it be personal losses? How important is that become to you?
Oh, absolutely. You're exactly right. The last two years have been the perfect example that, we're just just feel like we're getting by, surviving, getting through the day. And sometimes you have to be there. But for the long haul, resiliency is important. This activity comes from Your Thoughts Matter. So mental health obviously is a topic right now more than ever, just coping strategies and dealing with stress, which we've all been through.
Yeah, I want to dive into this activity with you because you've got a hammer sitting right there.
I do.
I got to see. Right? Will you walk us through this resiliency activity?
Yes, so this is easy to do, whether you're at home, in your classroom, or I did this with adults at YMCA last week. So you just grab things that are around you. Okay. I have a banana, a bouncy ball, rubber band, paper clips, some chips, and a sweatshirt and a water bottle. You can be empty or full.
Okay.
So just anything that's close by at your house. And you're going to test the resiliency of these items with, you're right, you saw my hammer here. So it could be a stress reliever, just the activity in itself, right? But you just test these items with a hammer, and then you talk about, well, what are some characteristics of low and high resiliency? For example, the group I did last week with YMCA, when I smashed the banana, what do you think it looked like?
It's going to be a mess, but like you said, it may be a little fun.
Right. So what they said, but you can make banana bread out of it now. And that is the spot on an example of how to cultivate resiliency. Instead of focusing on why is this happening, focus on, okay, so what are some steps I can do to move forward, to improve, or what did I learn from this situation, instead of only focusing on what's going on and why it's happening. So that was a perfect example.
Essentially, with the exercise with the hammer, is it how I come out on the other end?
Yeah, and it can just teach you what may be a characteristic resiliency. For example, this sweatshirt, my K-State sweatshirt. I pounded on it, and the indention stayed. So that's a great example of taking care of yourself. So, there was nothing inside this sweatshirt. So just like a pitcher of water, the more you pour out, and if it's empty and you don't refill it, it's not going to bounce back quite as well. So it's very important to find out what what it means to take care of yourself, and you want to be sure to include some fun.
What's some of the feedback that you've gotten from people after they've gone through this lesson?
Yeah, so I think that they, after brainstorming some sources of joy and comfort and those coping strategies, there were some light bulb moments as far as, oh, you know, something as simple as just stepping away and listening to some music might help me be able to come back to this stressful situation a little bit better. It doesn't have to be anything big, but something that works for you.
You know, if you're leading an organization, a company, and you want to get in touch with Tara and maybe get some tips on how to help your employees through what's certainly been a rough 2 years. Tara, how do they get in touch with you if they want to learn more about resiliency?
Absolutely. Love to hear from anybody. Call one of our offices. They'll connect you to me. Email tsolomon@ksu.edu. Facebook message us. However you want to connect, we'll be there for you.
Tara Solomon-Smith, I want to thank you. Tara, I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. I did not do that at the beginning, and I apologize for that. K-State Wildcat District, you guys do amazing stuff for us, and we appreciate having you on each and every Wildcat Wednesday.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, great to see you. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Well, a drop in temperatures led to a sharp spike in natural gas prices last winter, and the Kansas Attorney General says that spike appears to violate state law. Attorney General Derek Schmidt says he's seeking outside legal help to investigate. Schmidt's office says it's looking to retain a law firm with expertise in the natural gas marketplace to help investigate, and with any potential civil litigation aimed at enforcing the state's anti-profiteering law. Schmidt said in a news release that state law prohibits unjustified price increases for necessary goods and services during a declared state of disaster emergency. Of course, that video showing how cold it was back then. Well, the bleeding on the country's balance sheet rose in August. According to the Treasury Department, the budget deficit rose to $2.71 trillion. That puts the nation's shortfall on track to be the second largest in history. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting that the annual deficit will total $3 trillion this year. That would be an improvement from last year. It could soon be easier for millions of renters with little to no credit to become homeowners. Starting Saturday, Fannie Mae will consider the most recent 12-month rent payment histories when lenders run their automated credit check. The mortgage giant will seek to get permission to check renters' payment records from their bank accounts or electronic services like PayPal and Venmo. We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
The Labor Day.
Well, it's something you wouldn't wish on any dog, paws that face the wrong way. Ginny Moose shares the story about a puppy who has learned to walk, run, and play after a surgeon turned her upside-down paws right side up.
It's not easy for a dog to give you her paw, let alone walk when they're facing the wrong way.
We would call it paws upside down.
Meet Siggy, a rat terrier with a rare defect.
What a good girl you are.
Her out-of-joint elbows allowed her lower limbs to rotate 180 degrees.
Paws facing straight up rather than straight down.
But Dallas Dog Rescue Rehab Reform knew where to take Siggy to Oklahoma State University's College of Veterinary Medicine.
Siggy could muster a crawl of sorts. She was actually kind of walking on the tops of her wrists.
Dr. Eric Clary is the go-to surgeon who has fixed this rare problem before. Milo the foxhound had his operation in 2019. And once he had his pins and his splint removed, he was ready to learn to walk again. Here he is doggy paddling at swim therapy. His story went viral. His baleful eyes won him fans on TV, exchanging kisses with his owner from Oliver and Friends Farm Sanctuary.
What you doing?
Siggy had her surgery back in May when she was just over 3 months old.
We actually had to break the bones high up in the forearm.
This was literally the pivotal shot.
That was the first picture ever taken of Siggy's paws in the correct orientation.
She also had temporary pins in her elbows and had to wear a splint for weeks. Come see me. Once the splint was removed, she had to build back muscle mass. Learning to walk again was no walk in the park, but she was happy to tread on the treadmill for treats. And now she can bound and chase a ball. She may never be a ballerina, but she is too cute. Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
I don't know, she's pretty agile like a ballerina.
No joke.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, considering the way it started, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
All right, Tanya, there's something to talk about this morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll. Apple releasing a number of new devices yesterday, including a new iPad and an Apple Watch, and its most anticipated item, the new iPhone. Apple CEO Tim Cook using the virtual event to show off the new iPhone 13. Now, there's no major changes. 5G device offers faster processor, longer battery life, updated camera, and company says pictures are sharper. New iPhone 13 coming out on September 24th. Our specific question to you is, do you plan on purchasing the new Apple iPhone 13? And 58% of you say, nope, not even on the radar, not an Apple fan, compared to only 2% that say yes, as soon as possible. And picking up right in the middle, and we've seen this number grow, is 41%, but I'm gonna wait just a little bit. Turn our attention now to a live look outside of Television City. Cloud cover not going to leave us for a while, but certainly has been a gorgeous morning now that the majority of the rain has passed. We pick up an inch of rain overnight and early this morning at Joplin Regional Airport. Still a little bit down since January 1. Skywatch Storm Tracker, what we do have left is in the southern portion of Delaware County, now out of McDonald County and Berry County, mainly through northwest Arkansas and Benton County. And everybody else, we are done for the morning. There we are over 7th and Rangeline. I say we're done for the morning, and if you were to look at the clouds, you'd be like, no, are we going to come back again and do that? No, we're not. Just kind of hanging over there. And then as we transition over to 7th and Rangeline, you actually see the sunshine able to kind of go right below the cloud cover and light up the intersection and dry it off quite a bit. 65 degrees. Temperatures, not a whole lot of difference from last time we checked. Still ranging in between 63 and 67. Down south, Nicholas, no longer a tropical storm, but still very dangerous in the fact that plan on it dropping about 10 inches of rain through Louisiana. Everybody along the Gulf Coast of Texas, they finally get a chance to begin their cleanup after it made landfall on Monday. And our temperatures are going to put us into the mid-80s. Got to fight that cloud cover early on. Not really going to get a break till this afternoon, early evening, but it can't beat 85 degrees. You got to do an outdoor project, anything today? I tell you what, this afternoon, evening, that's going to be a time to get it done. Here's why today's the time to get it done. After that, we're going to be fighting the 90s all the way for the latter third of September. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. CBS News projects California Governor Gavin Newsom has survived a recall election to remove him from office. Conservative talk show Larry Elder host led 46 candidates who were looking to replace him. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris both traveled to California to campaign for the governor. The Gulf Coast will be cleaning up the damage this morning after Hurricane Nicholas hit, bringing flash floods, heavy rain, and winds up to 95 miles per hour. Trees fell on homes and hundreds of thousands lost power. Storm struck many communities still struggling after Hurricane Ida. Broadway is back in New York City. 4 big shows opened last night at full capacity. Broadway supports almost 100,000 local jobs. Those are some of today's top stories. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Now that we're done with our rain, we're going to be on the dry side, headed all the way into the weekend. Remember, temperatures today going to be absolutely delightful. Daytime afternoon highs about 85 degrees. After that, then get ready for the reemergence of the 90s into the weekend.
Well, there was a rare sight captured off the coast of Australia. A megapod of humpback whales, more than 100 strong, all caught on camera surrounding a boat near a town south of Sydney in New South Wales. Our tour company was leading a training exercise when the whales appeared, slapping their tails on the water, herding fish in a feeding frenzy. The company's owner says the migrating whales he's seen this year have been feeding a lot more, possibly due to a shortage of food.
While as cool as it is to have that aerial view, I promise you, if you were in that boat, that was a tad bit scary.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah. You're looking at the whale and you're like, what? That's bigger than our boat. And they're hungry.
You've seen whales.
That's right, no.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, the most I ever saw was like, 4 or 5 at a time. I've never seen a megapod.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us put the good in your morning. Back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.